Hey everyone, welcome back to Citywide Blackout, your home for music, movies, and more. I'm your host, Max Bowen. Courtney Ram joins me for this episode to talk about her memoir, Eris Rising, available on October 27th through Acorn Publishing. In this book, we see a professional dancer, choreographer, and yoga teacher crossing paths with an enticing yet manipulative man named Marcus. The relationship that followed this meeting was marked by emotional and even physical abuse. Following the end of this relationship, Courtney decided to write this book to show people how it is possible to move forward and grow into a true warrior. She is the author of the book Eris Rising, which is going to be available on October 27th through Acorn Publishing. Author Courtney Ram joins me. Courtney, welcome to the show. It's awesome to have you here. Very interested to dive into all the different parts of this new book.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
All right. Now, we're going to dive into the story behind the book, but the thing I want to talk about first is what led you to want to write this being this memoir of your life?
Yeah, well, this wasn't a book I saw coming. I knew I would write a book about something, being a dancer and having a lot of experiences in dance and in ballet and in holistic healing. I thought maybe I'd write a book about that one day. But then I went through this really intense relationship that completely turned my life upside down. And everyone kept telling me, you have a novel here. You know, you certainly got a good story. And like, this sounds like a movie, like different things like that. And I heard that so many times, it started to maybe like go into my brain. And so eventually when I felt I was healed enough, I began writing. So that's where that came out of, the book.
Now, this book definitely seems to touch on a number of different things. It touches on your own background, and it then moves on to your life in dance. You mentioned that, and you have, your dance career. We could probably talk about that for the next couple hours. You taught all over the world, from Singapore to Thailand, Manhattan. You run your own nonprofit dance company, Ram Dance. You work with holistic healing, theta healing, Reiki practitioner, yoga, Pilates. You're a mother of two. I'm actually curious where you found the time to even write the book with everything else that you have going on.
That took a huge amount of discipline to write this book and extreme dedication, because I had every excuse to not be able to write it. Having two babies, so I wrote it when they were babies, newborn and a 1-year-old, and that's enough of an excuse, I feel like, for anything. But so I had that, and then I had things happen. My dad passed away suddenly, and I was trying to start writing the book. It was all these things, big things kept happening, and I was like, well, I guess I can't write. But when I said that, I would feel like, wait, but I have to write. And so it definitely took discipline, dedication, and it wasn't something you could just say, oh, I'm going to write today. It had to be, I'm going to write from 12 to 2. I'm going to have a babysitter come in. I had to have it planned, and it had to be something in the beginning, it was a discipline. And as it got further in the book, it became still a discipline, but more of something that was artistic and more enjoyable as I get more used to the writing process.
Now, you've been interviewed a number of times over the years, so you're definitely no stranger to being in the media. That being said, was it hard to put your life out there?
Quite terrifying, yes. Yeah, I'll be honest and say that even when the book was done, I still debated whether I should get it published or not, because it's so personal. It's such a personal story. Even close family members don't know all the details of what I was really going through. They know most of them, but they don't know all of them. So it was definitely something like, can I really share this? But at the same time, it's a powerful story, and it has a good ending, even though it's an intense, true story. It has a good ending, and I feel like it's going to inspire people who are also going through similar situations.
And as you mentioned, this book also touches on a relationship that you were in with a guy named Marcus, and this being a very, very dangerous relationship. Can you tell me a bit about how the two of you met and how that got started?
I was in my 20s, and I had, been dancing, been really career focused for most of my life. And when it came to relationships, I usually tried to brush them aside at a certain point because I wanted to just stay focused on my career. And I didn't want to feel sidelined by someone who wasn't the right one anyway. So I was like, I'll just wait till I find like the one, and then I can devote myself to that relationship. So I met Marcus at a spiritual gathering, which was kind of a new agey thing I used to go to. It was a great place for meeting people, although you would get kind of the new agey types. So if you're into the new age type, you'd meet those kind of people there. There was meditation and drumming and dancing and potluck. And there was this instant connection where he looked into my eyes, but instead of looking away, he just kind of stared into my eyes. So it was really weird because like no one just like doesn't blink and just stares at you in the eyes. It's very like odd. So I registered it as weird. And I also was like, whoa, this is like an intense person and these like sparkling eyes. And there was definitely an instant knowing, an instant attraction and chemistry. Later I'd find out that's actually called the sociopathic stare, but I didn't know that at the time. I had no idea what a sociopath was. I never heard that word. But it's actually a characteristic, this like deep, intense eye-locking stare. So there was that beginning, which was kind of notable. And that's kind of how it got started, although it was a rocky road. That was the very first moment there.
How did things progress from the time that you met at this, New Age event? How did things go from there?
So there was a lot of early red flags of what was about to come in the subsequent months. However, and I'll explain more about that, but I was very naive and very trusting. And I had a background of seeing my parents, married for 40 something years, and just like seeing relationships that worked, and also a belief of the goodness of people. Like I really didn't feel like people could be bad, or to an extent, I felt like most people are, in the inside are good. Maybe they're misled, maybe they're misguided or something, but the people are good. So there was red flags. It was up and down. So with the most new relationships, you go through that honeymoon effect, where like the oxytocin is really high, and you're falling in love. So there definitely was the amazing parts of that relationship, and kind of like you're transported to another world of just like euphoria. Definitely had that. But then at the same time, it had these lows that were so low that were just very confusing. I'm sure you want an example, so I could try to think of one. But just like little glimpses of what was to come. So, for example, in the beginning, thinking I'm the only person in the picture, and then finding out, oh, he's dating my friend who I've known for 3 years, and this other person, and this other person. Oh, wait, and like 3 more people. And how does he fit us all in like in the week? So there was that pretty soon. But the thing is I'm a very like kind of person where I want to get what I want. Like I see a vision and I want to go for it. So I saw a vision in us, and it was kind of a diluted vision, but I saw that vision and I would not let it go. I was determined to make it work. And so I just kind of kept trying with that.
You mentioned the red flags that came about early on. Did those kind of go away, or did you just keep seeing more like red flags as things progressed?
I don't feel like they ever really went away, but there was times when they were on pause. And it's a cycle. Like being in this kind of relationship it's not a healthy cycle, but it's a roller coaster. So it's literally up and down and up and down and up and down. And when you're in the up, you forget that there was a down, or the down becomes irrelevant because you're in the up. I actually think it's similar to a drug addiction. People know that they can know in their mind that drugs are bad for them, but they're still going to want them. So, there were certain points I was like, oh, this is probably not my best interest. But there was, the highs were too high that I couldn't just end the relationship. And then there was also children that came out of this. It couldn't just be like, it wasn't a simple breakup issue. There was more involved in it at that point.
Did you ever have points aside from the point where you did walk away and say, okay, we're done with this, were there other points where you tried to leave, but things happened that kind of brought you back into it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. All the time. Happened all the time. How did you know? Um, yes, I would be literally packing my bags, and then there'd like be a text message that would come in and apologies. And I mean, this always happened so many times because he knew he knew he was losing me. And so the tactics to keep me would get stronger and stronger. And when your heart is involved and it's emotional, and I was a new mother of an infant, and those tactics, they worked on me like magic. So there was always a way to reel me back in there. And I mean, in the end, it was another pregnancy. I mean, how do you leave when you're pregnant? You can't leave at that point. But in the end, I did. And it was devastating, but it was the best thing I could have done for me and the children.
What happened that made you say, over for good, not coming back?
Okay, so that is in the book. And so I made a decision to leave, but then I wavered and wavered and wavered. And when I kept wavering for a few weeks, maybe a month of wavering every day, different decision, I'm going to stay, I'm going to go, I'm going to stay, I'm going to go, constant indecision. My life was pretty much on hold at that point. The universe, or whatever force you want to say, stepped in, and something happened. I really just can't tell you until you have to read the book, because it's the climax of the book.
No spoilers. We are no spoilers.
But I was actually removed from the situation, and I was not able to go back to it. It was very painful on all levels. I'd say physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, every level. I would never wish anything like that upon someone. But at the same time, looking back, I can see I needed some huge explosion to happen so that I could leave and I wouldn't go back. Because as you'll see when you read the book, it was kind of this explosion, I would say, that it didn't matter what I wanted at that point. It was over.
The issues in this relationship, was it strictly emotional or was it ever physical?
It started off emotional, psychological, and then by the end, physical. Yes.
Okay.
Had to work up there. I mean, that's the thing is, it's not, people don't really understand that like an abusive relationship isn't someone like getting punched or getting hit. I mean, that could be the case, but it's so much deeper than that. And it has to like lead up to something like that. It's not just because people are smart enough to walk away from that, hopefully. But when something's been building and it's like so manipulative and you're already in it so much and confused and brainwashed, and it has to lead up to kind of something like that.
How long ago was this, and how long did the relationship go on for?
From the day that I met Marcus at that spiritual gathering till the day that I left was 16 months. So it was a really short amount of time.
Wow.
And I feel like that's what made the whole thing so crazy. And that's what made all my very close friends who knew what was going on say things like, they just couldn't believe what I was going through. They're like, is this a movie? Is this real? Are you serious? Another thing happened. Because I feel like I went through something that most people experience in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years of a marriage. And I experienced it in it was like constantly another horrible thing was happening. It wasn't fun at the time, obviously, but it was just like boom, 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 and then out. And that's what knocked me over so much. And that's what I was like, oh my gosh, I need to share this. Because one other thing in my book, a theme is that I was largely suppressed. I wasn't allowed to talk about things. There was like these rules in place. There was a religious community involved that we lived on, and I wasn't allowed to speak about it. I had like ultimatums at me. And, I mean, my therapist, counselors later said, what is this place, a cult? And I was like, oh no, there's no cult. Everyone's nice and friendly. And then when I started talking about it more, and she pointed out like everything at this place is a cult, it definitely made me rethink what I had been through. And you asked how long ago it was. So I went through that 16 months of hell. And then for a year, was just really focused on being pregnant, having a baby, and healing, deep healing from that, and did not start writing. And then about a year after I left, I started writing, and then that took a year. And then the whole publishing took years. So it's been a few years, enough years to get, the distance from it. I'd say that I didn't want to write with any sort of anger, because my book is a recounting of what happened. There's no embellishments. There's no, it's not a novel. It's just the truth. And I've been told by people who have read it that when you write, there's no blame. I'm just actually telling a story. So I wanted to be able to do that and not write too soon.
How do you not write this with anger? Because I imagine you think about those times, you think about this person. How do you not just get furious about it?
I mean, the writing process was intense, and I had to relive it. So that was a whole other thing. I had to not only relive it as I'm writing it, but I had to craft it into good writing. So it's two things at once. And I mean, there was times where I felt, a little bit angry, more kind of hurt, frustrated, sad, or nostalgic when I was writing. I'm not that much of an angry person. I don't really get angry very much. I kind of get hurt or sad, but I don't really get angry. But when I was writing the book, I was like, you know what, this being on paper is empowering to me, because this is my story and this is what happened. And the fact that I was writing it actually made me feel better. And also there was a lot of healing that took place that first year, of just kind of, so being pregnant. And
how did you heal from this? And as a follow-up question, do you consider yourself to be completely healed, or is that just never going to happen?
So I had originally planned that I would have 2 months to get over this and then move on. I had the timeline for myself because I'm a very type A to-do list kind of person. And I wanted to just get back in life. And I felt like my life was kind of sidetracked, or was sidetracked severely. And I wanted to just get back in life. And so that, okay, 16 months of that, and then maybe 2 months the most, with my family, with my parents and siblings, and move on. So it didn't happen like that. It was a very non-linear path, I would say. And I really had to, so I was actually born and raised in a Buddhist family, and embracing my Buddhist practices really helped me. And I think for anyone, they're going to find their own thing. So whether it's, their own religious upbringing or spiritual calling, whatever is calling them, whatever speaks to them, it's you need to find some higher power, because you're in so much pain at that point. I mean, the funny thing is you kind of look okay. You physically look okay, but your heart is shattered on the inside. It's a deep, deep pain. And there has to be some higher force helping you through that. But in addition to my Buddhist practice, I had family members nearby all the time. I had, immediate family, and forever, people have their community. So my situation, my community was taken from me. So I didn't have anyone anymore. I had no friends after that relationship. Before it, I had hundreds of friends and best friends and close friends. And after it, I had none. There was so much betrayal that happened when that relationship ended that I lost everything, which is one of the reasons I say this is a bigger thing than just a breakup. It was my life was turned upside down. I had no one to go to except my parents and siblings. And so, calling on those support people, which you have, whether some people it's their family, some people it's their friends or community. So all I had was my family. So it was my family, my Buddhist practice, and just really trying to find that self-love for myself through what I'd been through. And I also had to parent. So I was parenting a 1-year-old. That's a full-time job in itself. She never went to daycare, so I was always around her. And then new baby coming. So there was getting my mind busy, getting my mind off the topic by just being present with who was around me.
Tell me about the importance of having family and friends around, especially given the depth of damage that was done.
It definitely was my family that kept me from going back to that relationship. Even though at the end it was impossible to conceive that I would want to, given what I knew about what happened, what I've been through, I was actually desperate to go back. And if I didn't have that support system around me, I would have just bought a plane ticket and gone back. It was too tempting. When you're carrying someone's baby and you have another baby and you're one parent with 2 babies, That's a lot. Usually it's two parents and one baby, and I was the opposite. So it was a really hard situation to be in. And that your family can give you, or friends, people around you can give you that level of support that you just can't find for yourself. And there's also like a recovery period. Like it's really like a drug addict going through a withdrawal. You have to have that withdrawal to be able to get through the withdrawal. So support people to talk to, are so important for those reasons.
I'd like to ask about the concept of moving forward. One thing that I hear a lot when people go through these kinds of situations, whether it's an abusive relationship, the loss of a close family member, there's always that drive to push a sort to get you to move forward, to kind of move on. Is it possible to totally move forward from this, or is it the kind of thing that you just carry with you?
That's a great question. You know what? I think I asked that to my counselor one day, right when I was just out of that. I said, am I ever going to get over this? Like, am I ever going to get over him? And she's like, yes. And I was like, again, like, do you really think so? And she's like, yes. I would ask it like constantly. I do think it's something you heal from. I feel like that person that went through that is an old version of me. I don't feel like that person anymore. Even if I look at the book and read through my book, I feel like I'm reading almost someone else's book. I mean, I couldn't make those decisions now. I wouldn't act like that now. And so I feel like it definitely is possible to move forward. I feel like with anything, the time is such a great healer, and you can't rush time. You have to just be patient with time. So it's just powerful in itself. Like as time passes, things start to fade away, which is why I actually wanted to write the book when I did. I didn't want to wait another year or a few years to write the book because I wanted to be able to remember everything. And I knew that those memories would start to fade for me. So I think it definitely is possible to move forward for sure.
You mentioned earlier that your family knew some details as to what had happened. When you decided that you were going to write this book, that you're going to put it all out there, did your family try to stop you, or did they try to sort of edit the book? Did they try to sort of get you to hold some things back because this is too personal to put out there?
Well, they still haven't read the book, so I guess they're going to be surprised when they read it, if they choose to read it when it comes out in 2 weeks from today. So we're talking. So, I mean, in the end, I had to write my truth. I've heard of people who like will write a memoir once people pass away, then they feel like they can publish it. And I feel like this is just too timely. I feel like the issues it can't be like waiting around. So, in the end, even if I said too much, if some people think that, and it's mostly about me, I'm divulging mostly about myself, and that's my decision. And I did it for the purpose of truly helping other people. And I had to kind of give the full picture to have that happen.
How does it feel to know that the book is, at the time of this recording, 2 weeks away from being out there in the world for everyone to see?
Super exciting. I'm actually super excited, really excited about it. I mean, a tiny bit nervous, but more excited, nervous. And yeah, I mean, I know that, my family and friends are obviously going to want to read it because they're curious of what happened to me when I kind of dropped off for a little bit. But I'm more excited for the people that just stumble upon it, that maybe do a Google search or it comes up somehow and they're looking for a book about about this topic. That's what I'm most excited for, is because those are the people who really, I'm hoping it'll change their life.
How have you been changed by this experience?
So I feel like I've become so much more of a compassionate person, and I can understand so much more than I did before. I mean, honestly, the learning experience of what I went through could not be taught in any other way than going through it. And although I wish I could have found another way, I just feel like it was a destiny kind of experience. So, I mean, for one thing, I was very fooled by the superficial. So how someone looked, superficial gestures, it just totally like swooped me off my feet. And I've learned like superficial charm and superficial charisma, that's not who a person is. And that's I feel like today everything is superficial. We're all on Instagram where you can create how you want to look and make your image, and none of it is essentially real. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but a lot of people it's not. And it's so easy to get caught up in that. So I've learned a lot about the depth of a person and being able to connect to someone who someone really is versus who they are on the outside. So that's one thing. And I mean, honestly, it got me so strong that I feel like it was my warrior training. That's why my book has a subtitle, A Memoir of Finding the Warrior Within. It was a warrior training. It was not fun training. It was not easy. I wouldn't really want anyone else to have to go through that. But at the same time, it made me stronger on so many levels.
How do you think you'll approach the concept of your kids dating once they, get to that age, given what you've been through? Do you think you'll be very analytical about it, about who they're with and what their deal is?
I haven't thought about that yet because they're still pretty young, but I'm going to do my best. I think I'm going to do my best to teach them about what I said before about finding who someone really is and connecting to someone on the inside. And as a parent, children can choose to listen to you, or they can choose to do the opposite of what you say and test it out for themselves. So they're going to have the choice to have their own experiences. But of course, I'm going to warn them, and maybe they'll read my book one day and then they'll kind of know what happened. So I feel like they're going to have some kind of knowing, but they're also on their own path. So I can't control that.
What do you think people can learn from reading your book?
So I think one thing to take away is how to take something that is, I call it like a poison into medicine, how to change something that's truly poisoning your life and change it into medicine, like alchemy, how to do that. That's I feel like is a theme of the book. And another phrase I like to use is taking your karma, what you went through, what was destined in some way, what happened, and turning it into your mission. So poison into medicine, karma into mission. Those are two themes of, or kind of like one theme of the book. And that could be related to any experience. It could be about a relationship. It could be about a job. It could be about so many different things, an illness. So there's that kind of, you're just going to keep going. You're going to find some value in the situation. And then, as you said, in more of the plot details, definitely seeing how you can get fooled. It's so easy to get fooled. It's not that, it's easy. It can happen to anyone, and seeing the red flags. And I feel like when you're young and seems a little dangerous, there's like a thrill. It almost makes it more exciting. And then when you understand the full consequences, it's not exciting anymore. But if you don't understand what could really happen, if you kind of just have fun with some danger and some thrill, you just don't know. I sound like I'm talking about drugs. I'm talking about a relationship, but it's the same kind of thing. Is like there's a sense of danger that can be exciting until you know what could really happen. And the book is a warning in that sense. It shows how easy it is. It shows as it happens how easy it is to fall in that trap.
Curious how you approach relationships with yourself.
Yeah, I do have more caution, I will say, definitely. And I kind of like, there's more caution for sure. Although I feel like with the wisdom I've gained, I feel like it'd be pretty hard to pull that one on me again. I feel like I could sniff it out. But there's more caution for sure. And also because there's children involved, I have 2 children. I don't want to be dragging them into another drama that we got out of. So there's more caution, and not like crazy caution, but there's more caution than there was before, for sure.
What's the role of Eris?
I learned about Eris during the whole experience I went through, and I found out that Eris is actually a planet in our solar system that was discovered in 2005, and Eris comes after Pluto. And when Eris was discovered, they decided to make her a dwarf planet because of her size, but then they had to make Pluto a dwarf planet. This is a little background info. So Eris was discovered, decided she was a dwarf planet, but then she's the same size as Pluto. So now Pluto's a dwarf planet. So she's the same hierarchy of planets as Pluto. People don't really know that, so I'm just telling you that. And then just like in astrology, the different planets hold different archetypes and different meanings. Eris has the archetype of the feminine warrior spirit. And even just how she came in and then she kind of knocked Pluto down to dwarf planet, she comes in and she shakes things up. So she's not going to keep a status quo. So Eris as the archetype is about that feminine warrior for soul intention. And that rang really deep with me when I was writing my book. And my mom is actually an astrology lover and student for forever. And she was like always telling me to look up Eris. And I was like, okay, Mom, okay, later. I'll do that next week when I have time. She kept bugging me about it. So finally I looked up Eris and I was reading these articles and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like my story. This is totally resonating with everything I've been through and what I was going through at that time. And that's how she became the title of my book. So Eris is, like that powerful warrior, feminine warrior who's going to stand up for truth, who's going to fight oppression, and to fiercely protect what is sacred.
Is that how you see yourself now, as being a warrior, kind of forged and shaped by the experiences?
I mean, every day, like I'm always like on my self-improvement path. But yes, I do feel like that's definitely a part of me for sure.
Any like last second self-doubt about publishing this? Like when the time came, it was done, the editing was finished, were you like, okay, let's get this thing published? Or do you just think, maybe we could go back and read it one more time and see if we have to fix anything?
The editing process did take a while because I actually, even though I thought I wasn't going to be able to write this book because it was all the time that was involved, I actually ended up writing like double. Like I wrote close to 190,000 words, which is, you don't know, that could be 3 books. So I wrote actually way too much. I got sidelined, I guess, with the story. There's lots to tell. It was a complicated 16 months. And I did have an editor help me cut it down about almost in half. I mean, she took out a lot. So there was the shortening down of it. And then, I mean, like I said that before, there was the doubt of whether to publish. At one point I asked the editor, like, do you even think I should publish this? Should I just burn it and say, that's my past and forget it? And she's like, no, I don't think so. People are going to, she said, do what you want, is what she said. But I came to my own decision, which was that people are going to learn from it. And I put all this work into it and, a year plus of writing and editing. And I felt like I owed it to myself and to other people to publish it. But there was a fear, and there was definitely fear. And then there was, fear it wasn't good enough, fear that, I don't really know what else. Fear that was divulging too much about myself. But yeah, I had to put the fears aside and just stick with that Eris mindset.
If there's one chapter that people have to read, which one would you say it is?
So my favorite chapters of the book are the first chapter, which is the prologue, and the last chapter. The first chapter gives you an overview of what's going to happen, and the last chapter gives the deep soul lessons that were gained. And if you're into, drama and plot, read the whole book, please. But the first and last are my favorite chapters for sure.
Any books that you read after things ended that kind of helped you in the same way that your book can help others?
So I actually was searching for a memoir that would really help me, and I didn't find one. I found nonfiction books about topics. There's a well-known one, The Sociopath Next Door, and there's one, The Verbally Abusive Relationship. I mean, those were good books, and they helped me a bit for sure. But I really wanted to read a memoir. I wanted to read someone else's personal experience, and I actually couldn't find one. So I did pick up some other memoirs just for fun to read to help me with my writing. On Audible, I like to listen on Audible, so I was listening to the classics, Eat, Pray, Love, and some other just lighthearted memoirs just to get myself in the mood of the memoir. But in terms of my own healing, it was the nonfiction books, and I was really needing a memoir. I was needing to read someone's deep personal experience that I couldn't find.
Why do you think you had such a challenge to find books that were kind of like about what you went through?
So honestly, I think people are too scared to write them or to publish them. there's definitely people are scared, legal reasons, or they don't want the person coming after them. So, I mean, there's very real fears that people have in putting their truth out there, even though it is truth. So, and I also feel like maybe people, I shouldn't be laughing, maybe people like they weren't healed enough to write it. They didn't feel like they got out of it. They were too beaten up by the experience to be able to put it down in words. So, I mean, I think that's what makes my memoir like enjoyable to read. It's not like a depressing book because there is a sense of hope that runs through the whole book. And it's an empowering book for people.
Were you concerned about Marcus coming after you?
Because of the book or just in general?
Because of the book. Because of the book.
To be honest, no. Because everything the best protection is the truth, and everything I wrote is true and can be verified if it had to be. And that hopefully it won't be, but if it had to be, it could be. And like that's not I couldn't take the fear as a reason not to publish the book.
I think that says it all. I really do. I really do. I think there's a lot. I think other people might kind of pull back and say, well, you know what? I'm afraid the what if engine starts to spin. You think, well, what if this, what if that? And they say, forget about it. But I think it's important that these stories do get told because millions of people are going through this exact same thing, men and women. And I think anything that can help them kind of work through it is very important. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for talking to me. I really do appreciate this. And for the folks at home, this book will come out October 27th through Acorn Publishing. Print, ebook formats, audiobook perhaps in the future?
Audiobook is in the works. Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay. And folks, if you want to learn more, you go to Courtney Ram. That's RAMM.com. Courtney, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
This is Angelina Singer, author of the Upper World series, and you're listening to Citywide Blackout, the best podcast for independent artists.
All right, folks, that brings this episode to a close. You can follow the show on Facebook under Citywide Blackout and Twitter and Instagram under Citywide Max. Listen to the show on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Amazon Music, and every Saturday at 10 p.m. on Boston Free Radio. As always, keep those ears open.
Hey everyone, Max Bowen from Citywide Blackout here. Well, it's that time of the year again. In just a few months, the annual Rhode Island Author Expo returns. This event brings together more than 100 authors from all genres. Now, this year will be a lot different, because like so many other events, they decided to cancel the physical one in the interest of public safety. But that doesn't mean the show doesn't happen. In fact, this year it's going all virtual, with panels, author coffee clutches, and a whole lot more. And once more, I'll be the MC of this wonderful event. Now, the whole thing happens on December 5th, and you should definitely check out riauthorexpo.com for more information and a complete list of events. I'll see you there.